My name is Michael James Malone, and I am the only child of James and Erin Malone, as my mother had a difficult birth and was unable to have any more children. James, or Big Jim as his friends call him, is the sole owner of MMM, Malone Milling and Machining. As the name suggests, we specialize in the manufacture of milling equipment and spare parts. The factory is located at a shipyard in Jacksonville near the Jacksonville Naval Base. Over the years, my father has not only earned an excellent reputation, but also built a thriving business that employs more than 300 people with varying levels of skill. I have been working with my father since the day I learned how to turn a screw and hold a wrench. I was trained by the most experienced and qualified specialists for each type of equipment in our factory. My father insisted that I learn all the processes from scratch and work my way up the career ladder. There were no silver spoons or special privileges in our family. After graduating from high school, I decided that a college education would not benefit me or my future, but I enrolled in evening classes at a local business college to earn a degree in business. One evening, while I was studying in the college library waiting for my second class to start, I met an angel with red hair, green eyes, and freckles on her face, Mary Elizabeth McFadden. She was about 5 feet 2 inches and weighed about 105 pounds, soaking wet, with a perfect figure. She was studying to be a paralegal. We liked each other and agreed to meet again, which turned into frequent dates and eventually a serious relationship. To say that our sex life was great is an understatement. We were like two rabbits trying to outdo each other in the pleasure we gave our partner. We knew we were deeply in love, but decided to wait until we finished school before taking the next step of getting married. During this time, I continued to work full-time at MMM, while Mary worked as an administrator at the Duval County District Attorney's Office. After graduating, I began performing more general supervisory and administrative functions, preparing to become the successor in managing the MMM plant. Mary got a job as a paralegal at the District Attorney's Office, and it was time to start our life together. We were married in a local Catholic church and moved into a house owned by MMM, along with leased cars also controlled by the corporation. These amenities were provided by the company as part of my compensation package. As we started our life together, we were both determined to start a family, and shortly after our first anniversary, Mary announced that she was pregnant. Both families were thrilled with the news. 8 months later, we were blessed with the birth of twins. Sean James and Erin Margaret were born, and our families were overwhelmed by the miracle that had happened to us. Our quiet life quickly changed to the hectic lifestyle associated with raising twins. Mary quit her job at the district attorney's office and took on the daily responsibilities of motherhood. I helped her as much as I could when I was home, but she was the main and perfect homemaker. Of course, the grandparents were there to help and spoil the children, but Mary was always in control. Time flew by, and the twins were ready to start kindergarten. When the children were at school, Mary missed being at home and suggested that I return to work. She contacted the prosecutor's office, and there was a vacancy for a legal assistant. I wasn't entirely convinced, but I didn't want to stand in the way of her fulfilling her dreams. I understood that she had devoted herself entirely to raising our twins for the past 5 years and deserved some freedom. We interviewed several candidates for the nanny position and decided that Mrs. Rebecca, Becky Mary, would be the perfect choice. As a loving father, I insisted on installing a complete video surveillance system, nanny cameras, throughout the house. This system was installed without Becky's knowledge and could be activated via an app on our cell phone. The system was equipped with basic equipment capable of recording daily activities. Mary returned to work, and I continued my daily work at the factory. After work, we spent several hours reviewing the surveillance camera footage, and I felt like I had wasted several $100s, as Becky was an exemplary nanny. She gave the children love and care and discipline when necessary. Everything was fine at the Maloon's house until it wasn't. Mary returned to work after about 18 months, and I began to notice that she was dressing a little more elegantly than her job at the law firm required. Nothing extravagant, just clothes that looked more like evening wear than work clothes. Then the phone calls started, explaining that she would be working late to prepare documents for an important trial. These late nights began to happen once or twice a month. Then came the request to join her weekly girls' nights out. I expressed my dissatisfaction with her leaving me alone with the twins when she worked late, and now she wanted to spend Friday evenings drinking with her colleagues. She immediately replied that she had devoted 5 years to caring for the twins and didn't think it would be difficult for me to spend a few evenings with them while she rested. To be honest, I didn't have any valid arguments except that the green devil was raging in my head. The situation continued. She stayed late at work more and more often, and on Fridays she came home later and later. As you know, I didn't finish college and don't have a prestigious degree, but I'm not stupid. I talked to her about how our sex life was deteriorating and we were spending less and less time together. She just brushed off my concerns without giving any acceptable explanation and continued her new lifestyle. After a few months, I finally lost my patience. I explained to her that we were no longer acting like a loving and caring family, but like people with different goals, and that if we weren't careful, it could lead to serious consequences. She snorted that she was fulfilling her share of the family responsibilities and that I was just jealous of her ability to have fun with her friends. I told her that might be true, but that tomorrow night I planned to send the twins to spend the night with their parents, and we would have a serious talk about where our marriage was headed. She gave me an angry look, went into our bedroom, and locked the door. This upset me greatly, and I insisted that she open the door. When she refused, I kicked the door open, explaining that it was my bedroom, and if she didn't feel comfortable there, she could find another place to sleep. She went to sleep somewhere else, and there was fear in her eyes. The next morning, I left the house before Mrs. Mary woke up to get the twins ready for school. At work, I arranged with the parents to pick up the children from school and give Mrs. Mary a well-deserved evening off. After work, I stopped in for dinner and returned home at the usual time. As I pulled up to the house, I noticed a car with county license plates parked on the street in front of the house. I knew that paralegals were not entitled to parking privileges, and my wife's car was parked in the driveway as usual. My instincts told me that something unpleasant might be waiting for me. I took precautions by turning on the video surveillance system and, after quickly looking around, began recording video and audio of what was happening in the house. Looking around the living room, I noticed that my wife was sitting too close to a man in a business suit on our couch, and I guessed that he worked in the legal field, as it turned out later. They were engrossed in conversation, and I turned up the volume on my phone to hear what they were talking about. He said he had to tell me himself because he was used to dealing with hostile witnesses. When I entered the house and introduced myself, explaining that I had brought dinner but didn't know we had guests and didn't know if there would be enough food for everyone, I entered the living room. I thought we were going to discuss some differences tonight and agreed to spend the evening together. The man stood up and introduced himself. Good evening, Mr. Malone. My name is Jeff Richards. I'm the Assistant District Attorney for Duval County. May I call you Mike? I doubt it will be a good evening, Mr. Richards. And my friends call me Mike, and my colleagues call me Michael. But you are neither to me. Please call me Mr. Malone. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'll put the food on the table or in the refrigerator. Will you be staying for dinner, Mr. Richards? No, Mr. Malone. Dinner is not necessary, as the outcome of my visit will probably create an atmosphere unsuitable for dinner. As you wish. I'm very hungry, so while you explain your presence in my home, I'll eat my portion while it's hot. I'll put your food in the refrigerator, Mary, and you can eat later when the atmosphere Mr. Richards referred to has cleared up. I left them with their mouths open and went to the kitchen, where I put Mary's food in the refrigerator and set the table for myself. Taking the cutlery and a tray, I returned to the living room, where they were still whispering. I sat down in an armchair and, apologizing, began to eat. So, Mr. Richards, you were going to explain your presence in my home. Mary couldn't help herself. Michael, Why are you being so rude? Jeff came to help me explain what happened and help you understand where this is going. Hey! So it's Jeff, not Assistant District Attorney Richards, Mr. Richards, but Jeff. I don't like the way this conversation is going, so please, Jeff, explain to me what happened. What required two legal hounds to show up at my door at a time when I was about to spend the evening in private conversation with my wife? And while you're at it, explain why you've been sleeping with my wife for the past few months. They both fell silent, staring at me with their mouths open like fish out of water. What? You thought I was so stupid that I didn't check what was going on? So you're asking yourself why I let it continue without talking to my wife? The answer is simple. I needed proof to ensure that the prenuptial agreement would be honored to the letter, and that my wife would keep everything she had before this immoral union, and that I would get custody of my twins. I couldn't bear the thought of them being influenced by a man with the morals of a street cat. Besides, Mr. Richards, I think Mrs. Richards would like to see this too. Perhaps you could watch it together tonight. Assistant District Attorney Richards blushed, jumped up from the couch, and began to shout, "Now that you've let off some steam, you better listen, you bastard. Yes, I have been using your wife for the past year and even longer." I remained calm during his outburst, which seemed to throw the couple off balance, as if they were waiting for me to give in to my emotions as well. I replied quietly, "Why shouldn't I present these recordings as evidence of my wife's infidelity? They were made during working hours in a public place where there could be no reason for confidentiality. You do realize that you are government employees and, as such, are under the scrutiny of the public." I was then told that I had no idea who I was dealing with and how influential he was in the local government. I have connections in all law enforcement agencies, including the local police, judges, and friends whom I have helped reduce sentences and cover up facts, and they owe me. I will have you arrested for violence against your wife and children, and you will never see your precious twins again. I can plant child pornography on your computer, and you will spend the next few years behind bars in a state prison. All of this will happen if you attempt to take any legal action against your wife, my wife, or anyone else, including divorce. Wow, you really know how to construct a convincing legal argument, Jeff, and I have almost no choice. However, before agreeing to your terms, I would like to call customer service. Customer service? What the hell are you talking about? You think this is a reality show? Enough. Come with me, Mary. We're going to sleep in your bed. I've been waiting for this for a long time. Before you go, let's take a quick vote. It won't take long and could be very helpful. What do you think, Dad? Should we agree to their terms? Call me and put me on conference call. At that moment, my cell phone rang. I answered, "Hi, Dad. I'll put you on speakerphone so everyone can hear the voting process." The seemingly dim-witted guy looked confused and turned to Mary for an explanation. Like in a comic book, I saw a light bulb go off over Mary's head. "Oh, shit!" she exclaimed. "The damn surveillance cameras we're recording were screwed." "Yes, Mary." I turned on the system when I saw the county car parked outside our building. Before entering the house, I sent my father a text message with the password to log into the system and asked him to set up a conference call with our friends and share the password so they could enjoy watching and share their impressions. "Dad, I don't know who you called, so why don't you take roll call so our viewers can share their thoughts?" Assistant District Attorney Jeff Richards looked at me with rage, stood up, and lunged at me. I'm not a football player, but I lift heavy equipment and materials at the factory every day. He didn't stand a chance. He swung his arms, I dodged, and landed a hard right on him. He fell like a cheap suit. It took him a few seconds to recover, and during that time, I asked my father to take roll call and ask the conference call participants for their thoughts. Among the participants were members of our families, representatives of the parish, the Duval County Sheriff, and none other than the Duval County District Attorney, who, as I later learned, was my father's classmate and teammate in high school. By this point, Jeff had regained his composure and returned to his seat next to my soon-to-be ex-wife as the vote began. Our relatives, her father responded, "Mary, you must have shit in the dining room." And parish officials expressed their disapproval of my wife's actions and disagreed with my decision to comply with their demands. The sheriff and district attorney not only disagreed, but also informed us that arrest warrants had been issued for each of them and that deputy sheriffs were already on their way to arrest them for extortion, attempted perjury, abuse of office, and other charges that would be investigated. In addition, the prosecutor informed them that they were no longer employees of the Duval County court system and that he would ensure that they never again held positions as court officials. I thanked the conference participants for their favorable vote and hung up. I looked at the two broken people with tears on their faces and realized that their lives were ruined. The sheriff's deputies arrived, took them into custody, and I was left with the grief of a broken marriage and the hope of becoming a single father to two beautiful twins. We will survive. Mary served 18 months in county jail for aiding and abetting, and Jeff was not so lucky. He is currently serving a 9-year sentence for several other crimes he was convicted of, in addition to those he and my wife committed against my family. The twins, who are now in 2nd grade, and I are doing well. Mrs. Mary kept her job as a housekeeper, but now she has the added responsibility of caring for a 3rd child, me. I hope to find a suitable life partner someday, but that has not happened yet.